Hi everyone, my name's Mark Walker, and you're welcome back to SwitchUp. Even though some of the games on this list you may already know or even own, I try and make the little segments quite interesting and also add in patch information where possible. At the bottom of the screen you can see the current status of any discounts we've got going on the channel, where you can save some money on your eShop credit if you are in the EU or the US regions. And we're also giving away a Nintendo Switch OLED at the end of January. You don't have to do anything special. We'll choose someone from the comments or from Twitter and we'll post what it is they said. You don't have to try and be clever, but normal comments are always welcome. There are some really good games on this week in both regions, and some that very rarely go on sale. So, sorry backlog, not sorry. I've bought a couple of games this week, which is always a good sign. What games are on sale? Well, let's find out. Switching up the formula, we are going to have our hidden gem first, and it's Masters of Anima. I reviewed this for the channel way back, and it's quite cringy listening to that with my squeaky little voice. But at the moment, it is a ridiculous £1.44. That represents 75% off, but 75% off of a new lower price. This is essentially a Pikmin game, made by an indie developer, and it has a fully voice acted story and comes from developer Past Tech Games and is published by Focus Home. It's not the longest, it's around about 7 hours, and you play as a reasonably gifted apprentice called Otto who sounds a little bit like Jon Snow, and it kicks off when you're about to marry, but unfortunately something's happened to the missus and it's up to you to help solve the situation. If you're a fan of the Pikmin-like experience, then you'll very much enjoy this one. A good alternative, but one that's only available in the EU regions, would be Tiny Kin, which I reviewed on the channel and absolutely loved in 2022. This one feels just 1.18 gigs, and that sale goes on until January the 20th. Continuing its trend of dropping in price almost every sale, we've got Crysis, the remastered trilogy, including 1, 2 and 3 in the Crysis series on Switch, and it's down to its lowest, £24.74. It might sound a lot, but you're getting 3 of the best first-person shooter games on Switch. But if you're interested in physical copies, you can usually find this one quite cheap, so keep an eye out for that one, normally on shop2.net here in the UK, or Amazon in other regions. On the eShop, it is a massive 29 gigs, plus any patch downloads that you're going to need to do. Although in its base state, if you are going physical, it's not in a bad shape in terms of performance. I think in the first one you play as Prophet, and then there was like an expansion pack that featured, what's the English one called? I can't remember. The poor man's Jason Statham. Either way, the formula's the same. You can augment your weapons on the fly. They've got gyro controls and they run really nicely in docked and handheld. There were a few audio issues at launch, but they're actually okay now. These were developed and published by Crytek, and I think Team Saber might have helped as well. That sale goes on until the end of the month. Don't forget to save that 10% using our discount. One of my favourite games of, was it 2021 or 2022? It was 2021, and it's Snowrunner. Now this is a great game. If you look at this on paper, going around and doing missions with trucks, it shouldn't be nearly as fun and enjoyable as it is, but the Spin Tires series has been going for a while, and Snowrunner followed Mudrunner, which was on Switch, and it has incredible graphics really for the platform you're looking at, with real-time physics for the mud and the snow, over 40 different vehicles that you can fully customize, change all of the paint designs, change what's on them, change the trailers, etc. And then you can go online and join 3 other people for online co-op, which is just bizarrely hilarious and very compulsive. When one of you gets stuck in the mud, or you try and pull a fast one and end up upside down or off the side of the road, and the amount of work that actually has to go into getting them back on track, it's far more enjoyable than it should be. Now, the co-op is only one element of it, but you really can enjoy a huge single-player experience that has almost GTA-style missions in terms of their structure and how you undertake them in some really massive maps. There's still some DLC to come for this one as well, so it's not a dead game. It's very much still going strong, and you're looking at a 9.5 gigabyte download. That one's on sale until January the 20th, and it's another that has a physical if needed. Alright, doesn't really count as a pickup for the week, but it is one that I've started playing this week because I saw it was on sale and thought, well, I better give it a bash now and see if it is genuinely worth recommending for the sales video. And I think, yeah, very much it's worth recommending for the sales video. It's a little unusual in terms of its styling. It's almost like a side-scrolling, side perspective roguelike game set within feudal Japan using this very strange painterly ink art style, but with hack and slash combat. combat that's super easy to pick up and play. There are also, which I didn't realise, some very, very good boss fights in here. You can enhance your different weapons, and your runs, which are known as descents, essentially allow you to collect souls, or devour souls I should say, to power up and level up things as you go along. It's not perfect. There are a few not huge performance issues. There's a couple of stutters here and there, but generally it's fine. It's just slightly it's like a particular flavour of food. I just don't think it will sit with everyone, maybe with the visuals or the overall feel of the movement. But for those people that like what they see, I think there's a real gem here for sure. So that one at the moment is 40% off. It matches the cheapest it's ever been, and that is until January the 22nd. And I will say it's only 3.6 gigs and is published and made by Konami. I actually had a bash on this one quite recently, as it was available on some other platforms. I think it was Game Pass, was it on? And it just kind of popped up. Or was it just on my Steam account? Who cares? Anyway, Curse of the Dead Gods, in my opinion, is probably one of the most overlooked and underrated roguelike games that we have on Switch that bears similarities to Hades. Now, the very cool system here, as the title suggests, is that as you go through the run, you take on curses. They have both a negative but also a positive effect if you can ride out the curse. There's a light-based mechanic here for the combat, so you'll do more damage when you're using a torch to light the enemies up, and vice versa, they'll gain more strength in darkness. There's lots of different weapons, swords, spears, bows and guns, and that is literally me reading off the blurb because I totally forgot. But as I say, underrated. Went back to it, thought, wow, this is really good. Now, Rob Nor the Viking reviewed this for us. We do have a full review if you want to check that out. But you are looking at 4.1 gigs to download it. Developed by Past Tech Games, published by Focus Home, who have clearly got a big sale on all of their titles at the moment. And that sale goes on until January the 20th. If you didn't watch our interesting games video, we had a couple of real BARJANs in there. Click that little button at the top of the screen and it will queue up the video so that you can watch it next. But in the vein of BARJAN, we've got Cinemora X, which apart from R-Type was one of the first shmups that I'd played in years. I remember Glen banging on about it because he kind of was familiar with it, but it was quite expensive at launch. And it's down to the ludicrously cheap price of 99 pence. I mean, that's 10% of the price I paid for my burrito at lunch. In fairness, the burrito wasn't that expensive, it was the delivery costs and I was busy making this video. Either way, 99p, that's an absolute BARJAN. Now, it's only 1 gigabyte to download. It does have as well 2-player co-op, which is an absolute blast, pun intended, and it's developed by Digital Reality and Grasshopper Manufacture. That's weird, isn't it? Grasshopper Manufacture. Shouldn't it be Manufacturer? Sorry, Grasshopper, you've misnamed your company. And it's published by Handy Games. So there you go. It's not the longest shmup ever, about 3 or 4 hours, but it's a blast, and there's a physical as well. That sale goes on until January the 19th. My purchase for the week then, and I didn't have a clue what it was, I watched a review and was like, hey, this looks alright. It's Shady Part of Me. It's 50% off, down to £6.49, that's the cheapest it's ever been. And so far, first hour or so, it's pretty decent. It has a bit of a macabre Alice in Wonderland style feel, almost a colour palette, but it features the voice of a few Game of Thrones characters as well as skins, a lady known as Hannah Murray, and you play as a little girl who's working her way through these surrealist dreams, and it mixes up 2D and 3D gameplay. And as I say, I haven't played much, so I'm having to use the blurb for this to help a bit, but the puzzles seem relatively logical and easy to understand. I think the problem for this game is that you've got things like Little Nightmares that are almost like the pinnacle of the small child walking through scary places genre, as it's known, but still it's enjoyable. It's 2.7 gigabytes, as I say, and that sale goes on until January the 20th. This one is developed by Douze Dixiem. Or is it Douze? It's got to be French, isn't it? Hang on, how do you say that? Douze Dixiem? I'm so sorry, developers. I'm so sorry. Let's move on. Alright, Glen's recommendation, even though he doesn't know it, is Castelvania Advanced Collection, which was another one he was waffling on about when it came out, and was trying to talk me through the different games because there was something else that was released that was very similar to the second one, and I cannot remember what that's called, and that's going to annoy me for the rest of the day. But this is a really nice collection, currently 40% off, down to £9.59. It features Castlevania Circle of the Moon that was on the Game Boy Advance, Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance, which was also on that platform, Castlevania Araya of Sorrow, and then the SNES version of Castlevania Dracula X. All excellent games. They obviously run well on the Switch, with a few quality of life additions like being able to rewind, aka cheat, don't do it. And save and load, I think at any point. All of that comes into a small package of just 673 megabytes. You're looking at about 30 hours of gameplay here of some of the all-time classics of the genres. So yeah, maybe give those a bash. And well, I won't be calling these Metroidvanias, will I? I'll be calling them Castlevanias. Hey. That sale goes on until January the 22nd. Let's employ the power of the comments for this one. This has been my hidden gem in the past, and I remember lots of people saying I've picked it up now. I'd be keen to hear what you thought of it. It's Streets of Rogue, a brilliantly underrated game. It had feels of old school Syndicate and Syndicate Wars, but don't get me wrong, it's very much not like those games in terms of its overarching gameplay. You know, you're not dragging some group around and they're doing your bidding and things like that. But you do have multiple classes. It follows a similar isometric perspective. And there's some real depth to what you can do. Now each floor essentially has different missions that you have to undertake. And you can do them in loads of different ways, from like hacking panels to poisoning things to exploding entire walls. And there's a menagerie of weird folk wandering around the areas and little gangs and things, which kind of reminded me of old school GTA when you had the, well, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it anymore. It's probably not politically correct, but you used to have a certain group of individuals going around together singing and banging their cymbals, and invariably they ended up exploded. So in this one you can essentially cause the whole area to end up in complete chaos whilst trying to undertake your missions. And what I love about this as well is it's one of the best co-op games. You're looking at 1 to 4 players, either locally or online. So yeah, really enjoyed it, very good. We do have a full review, check it out if you'd like to. That one is developed by Matt Dabrowski and was published by Tiny Build. The sale goes on until February the 1st, and it is a tiny 469 megs. As you know, I run an all patched up series on the channel, or you might not know that, and then that's going to be very assumptive, isn't it? I run an all patched up series on the channel where we revisit old games, and KO the Kangaroo was such a disappointment when it came out because it had this bug where your save progress would be deleted. Like, it wasn't a case of if, it was when. And I used to chat to Switch Corner and he was like, oh, it's happened to me 6 times. And I was like, it hasn't happened to me at all. Happy days. And then we lost everything. So that was upsetting. Now they've patched it up since, and as well as patching it up, they've released a really quite cool DLC that is almost like super tough platformer sections. You should do them after you've completed the main game, but the main game is essentially an old school 90s action platformer down to its very core. The problem, I say problem, I'm sorry if you're watching, I apologize, but the voice actor who does the main character, it just doesn't, let's just say it doesn't fit the character in my opinion, aka it's terrible. But I do enjoy the game now that it actually works and lets you save. It's not going to set the world on fire, but you're going to enjoy it if you like that genre. Now it's 4.5 gigs, about 8 to 10 hours long, and that sale goes on all the way until February the 6th. I do want to quickly mention one game that you should avoid though, because it popped up and my eye began to twitch. It's Hollow 2. Now, in fairness, I absolutely slated this. I tore it to pieces when I reviewed it. I hated the voice acting of the lady's wife. I'm sorry. I know that actress was actually like, I saw her in the comments of a few videos. She's not a bad voice actress. It's just within the context of that world, for me, it just didn't work. It was weird. It's like, you know, you rock up to the Event Horizon and blooming what's his face from Jurassic Park's there kicking off. And then the next thing you know, you get a call from your missus and she's giving you grief that you left the cooker on or something. It's just weird. So anyway, with all that nonsense out of the way, I've revisited Hollow 2 because I do like to go back and see if patches have been made and improvements. And I revisited this and it was exactly the bloody same. Just as bad as ever, no patchwork, none of the things I would like in the first person view. And I thought, that's upsetting. And then I, you know, switched from the game to the eShop, and the first thing to greet me was Hollow 2 at 90% off down to £1.79. Don't buy it. You could save that £1.79 and you could buy one of these BARJANs. So there you go. But there is that sick guy that likes to buy the avoid list. So for you, my friend, lap it up. So that's it for this week. As I say, do save yourself 10% over on our website, switchup.gg, which I noticed topped Google, which is like an incredible achievement for us because there's a few companies called SwitchUp and we're not a company. We're just 2 pals playing Nintendo games in their 30s. Oh man, I'm on one today. Thanks to all of you that enjoy the content. Hit all the buttons, tickle all the things. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya.